Joining me now from Capitol Hill is Congressman Mark Green. He represents the 7th Congressional District of Tennessee. He is a medical doctor and a veteran of the United States Army. Congressman, welcome back to the program.
Tony, thanks for having me on the show. How are you?
All right, give us the latest. How are things unfolding there? Has calm returned, or is the chamber still being occupied?
I believe they're slowly moving people out. I mean, I'm in a safe place now. We're still on lockdown. We're sort of where we were. So I don't know exactly what's going on inside the chamber, but best I can tell, they're moving people out and away from the building now.
Any idea, when Congress will resume its work?
No clue at all right now. They're still, every single staffer and, congressman is locked in their safe place here on the Capitol grounds. They're not letting anyone leave. So I can't imagine anything happens today. Who knows when we'll get out of here. Sometime after that, though, we'll take this process up again, I assume.
So, Congressman Green, were you in the House chamber when protesters breached security and made their way in?
I had just left, Tony. I was in the tunnel system when it all sort of blew up and got to a safe place for myself and got my staff safe, and did not see the goings-on inside the chamber. Just heard lots of noise.
Are you getting any reports as to what did unfold and what is happening?
Mostly from the media. We do have a messaging system that sort of keeps us alert as to the status of the lockdown and where people are. One of the things I did do was get accountability of my class. I'm the freshman class, so I just checked in to make sure everybody was safe. But beyond that, we pretty much are flying blind.
At what last I heard, were you still debating the objections or discussing the objections over Arizona? Is that at the point in which the interruption took place?
Yeah, exactly. They were just getting into Arizona, and I guess they probably had gotten an hour or so of debate done when the intrusion, or I don't know what you call it, invasion, assault, came into the building.
I mean, certainly it's, we don't know much as to who may have been involved in this, but there are literally tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people here protesting, and there was a march to the Capitol. But I'm sure you would agree this is no way for us to respond, even though the frustrations are high because, there have been court challenges that have been rejected. People feel like they have not gotten their day in court. But this is not the way we do things in a civilized republic.
Yeah, I've been very consistent on this, Tony. I denounced the Antifa storming of the Portland Federal Building and all the crazy stuff they've done. I denounced the riots that were related to the tragic death of George Floyd. It's horrible what happened to him, but those riots were totally uncalled for, unnecessary, unlawful. And I denounce these. It's unacceptable. It actually interrupted the very debate looking into this election. We were actually debating and having a discussion about the very issues these folks, we assume these folks are frustrated by. And so it's very counterproductive on many levels.
So does this change the course going forward? There were at least, I think, 2 other states where objections were going to be raised in terms of the electoral votes. Does this derail that process, which would allow us to address, may not change the outcome because we're going to talk about this in a minute, the actual process requires a majority vote in each chamber, probably not going to happen in the House, regardless of the facts, but it does allow this information to be made public, which can address this issue going forward. Is that process now damaged by this?
I don't think so, because we constitutionally have to do this. This is a part of the constitutional process for getting this is the last step sort of in getting a president. So we have to do it. How we go about doing it may be amended somewhat, but I mean, the process still has to go forward. It'll have to happen, and probably before the week's end.
Well, the process will go forward, but I know that there were several, almost 140 House members, 13 senators that were prepared to object to the results of certain states, and I think that's an important part of the process because it draws attention to the irregularities and the disregard for the law, actually, in some of those states, and I'm just concerned that now that this has occurred, that the process might be truncated and some of the senators kind of withdrawing their objections because of this environment that's been created.
I think that could potentially happen. I've heard talk of that already. So whether or not it'll be enough senators, I don't know. I do know that on the House side, there are people that are now reluctant to continue forward. From my perspective, the whole point of the objecting was to make sure that our election systems get fixed. I mean, some of the things that happen with mail-in ballots, I mean, we've got to look into all this. We cannot allow the executive orders from executive level leaders to change what should be legislative-driven changes to the election process. That can't be allowed to continue. That's the whole point of why I objected, and this doesn't change that for me. But I have heard that it may change it for some.
Yeah, I am with you 100%. That is the reason here, is to look at this going forward to ensure that it does not happen again. And I think whoever is behind this lawless behavior at the Capitol today is hurting that initiative to try to get to the facts and bring that forward so that we can fix a system that, in my view, is clearly been broken or manipulated for a particular outcome.
No doubt about it. I agree with that 100%.
So what would you say to those Americans that are out there that are disenchanted with what happened with the election, frustrated, but now shocked by what this peaceful protest here in D.C. turned into? Where do they go? What do they need to do?
I think we need to address this at the state level for the most part. I mean, I think there will be, Josh Hawley's talking about doing a federal bill that sort of help, but I'm not necessarily for that. I want states to fix this, but states have got to fix this. They need to go and talk to their state legislators and make sure that in their states, this mass mailings. One of the things that frustrates me too is the way the elections are reported. I mean, I think there needs to be a winner and a loser reported, and then there's the numbers. You don't get to, one county doesn't get to watch the count and then war game how many votes they need. I mean, not that happened. There's not evidence out there. We're still looking for evidence, but there's certainly all these different things that create a lack of confidence. And we need to create 100% confidence in Americans that the legal votes are counting and illegal votes are not counting.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all these different things and changes need to happen. I mean, even between time zones. I mean, we got to figure something out here. Multiple days after election days, still counting votes. These things just are ripe for fraud. I've been saying this all along, all through the summer, and just no one wanted to listen. The state legislators have got to fix this in each state.
Yes, absolutely. And I think the federal government, in part, I think the role that they can play is bringing attention to this and encouraging the states to take the proper action, just as they have with previous federal legislation as it pertains to Voting Rights Act. Voting Rights Act. I'll get it out there in a moment. So that everybody has the same fair treatment. Every person has a vote, and every vote will be counted the same way. I think that's critical going forward, so that the American people can have confidence in our election system. And I will tell you right now, they don't have it.
No, that's exactly right. And that is the tragedy of all of this, is Americans are sitting out there. I mean, who knows who didn't go to the poll in Georgia because they thought it didn't matter.
Yeah.
And that's an unacceptable place for Americans to be. Well, we have to create a system where everyone has confidence. And right now that system isn't in place.
Yes, well, stay the course, and despite the change of environment, we need to continue this process and bring light to those areas that have been manipulated and need to be fixed for the benefit of the Republic and the American people. Congressman Mark Green, as always, thanks so much for being with us today. Thank you for, in the midst of all this chaos, joining us.